My bookshelf literally looks vacant because I took so many books off. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and happy Valentine's Day. I am filming this on Valentine's Day. I actually wanted to upload this before Valentine's Day, but haven't gotten the chance to. I was kind of sick. The reason I wanted to film this and upload it on Valentine's Day was because I'm going to do romance book recommendations based on certain tropes. And I thought now would be the perfect time to upload it because it's February and I feel like a lot of people tend to read romance books in February. But if you're like me, you read romance books all year round. Hopefully you guys get some recommendations out of this, and sorry I didn't upload it on Valentine's Day, but there's still some of February left and you don't have to only read romance books in February. So I have 3 books for each trope recommendation. I made a matcha and I forgot how good they are. So a lot of the tropes I chose are some of my favorite tropes that I enjoy, but also all these books that I'm going to be recommending are books that I've really enjoyed reading, and a lot of them are like 4 or 5 stars. I do have some 3 stars in here, but I do highly recommend all these books. And I thought it would be fun to do this type of video because I know a lot of people have favorite tropes and tropes they dislike. So hopefully I chose one of your favorite tropes, and hopefully you've never read one of the books I recommend for the trope and you find a new book recommendation. Some of these books are kind of popular, but I tried to pick some books that I don't really hear a lot of people talk about. So I did my best. I only have so many books that fit in certain categories, and I really wanted to recommend books that I actually like and not just recommend a book that fits into a certain trope, if that makes sense. Since I'm going to be recommending like a handful of books, I think I have around 20 books I'm going to recommend. I'm not going to go into, I'm literally talking so much in this intro, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to go too much in depth about each book because I could talk forever and this would be a really long video. So I'm going to try to keep them short and sweet. I'm excited. Romance is one of my favorite genres, if you didn't know. So the first trope that I'm going to start with is one of my favorites, and it's Grumpy X Sunshine. Now this trope can be really good if it's done right, in my opinion. So first book I'm going to recommend for this category is one of my favorites. It's Culty by Mariana Zapata. And who would I be if I didn't start off one of my videos with my Mariana Zapata book? So yes, this is well done, Grumpy X Sunshine book. And there's a bit of an age gap in this book. It's basically follows this girl named Sal, and she's a pretty well-known soccer player and plays for a very well-known team. And she gets a new coach, and he's a retired athlete who's one of the like most well-known soccer players of all time, and she's basically looked up to him her whole life. And she meets him in real life finally, and he's her coach, and he's actually very grumpy and not pleasant to be around. And it's done so well, and they form a friendship, and he forms a soft spot for her. I love this book so much. This is one of my favorites by Mariana Zapata. Next book for this category is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. This book is really interesting. It's like nothing I've really ever read before. It basically is about this guy that comes up with this, I think it's an app where basically you take your DNA, they take your DNA or something like that, and they tell you who your like top romantic matches are based on personality and other things. And the creator of the app actually decides to get in contact with the girl he's most compatible with based on the data from his app or whatever it is. I can't remember. Anyways, I thought this book was really fun, and I think there's also a little bit of fake dating in this. So the last book I'm going to recommend for this trope is The Spanish Love Deception by Ella Armas. I know a lot of people know about this book, and it was really hyped a couple years ago, but I still remember really loving this book, and I thought the Grumpy Sunshine trope was done really well. I believe this is like also workplace romance. They work together and she needs a date to a wedding, and he decides to go with her and help her out. Really good Grumpy Sunshine book. Next trope is Friends to Lovers. Starting off strong with You Again by Kate Goldbeck. I've talked about this a lot on my channel because I discovered it last year and it was one of my top rated romance books and one of my favorite romance books from 2023. Loosely inspired When Harry Met Sally, but basically Ari and Josh keep running into each other over the course of like 6 years, and every encounter they have is not good. But like the 6th time they run into each other, they decide to hang out and they form a friendship. And they kind of bond over going through breakups, and really good friends to lovers. I loved their connection and I loved the way this was written. I loved their banter. I highly recommend. Next book is The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, also another book I talked about a lot last year because it was one of my favorite romance books. This is about Haley and Jack. I think they have a one-night stand and then they like see each other on a dating app and they start talking on the dating app, but not romantically. They basically come up with a wager that whoever finds love first will like get something from the other person. They like win a prize or whatever. So they start going on dates to find love, and basically they're going head to head and trying to find love, but they end up falling for each other. And I loved this so much. I thought the banter was so good and the connection they had was really good. And it was really well written. Then the last book I have for this category is The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. There's like 3 companion books to this little companion series, I think. I did not read them in order. I think this was one of the first Abby Jimenez books I've ever read, and I think it's my favorite. This, I believe, is about a girl named Kristen, and her best friend is getting married, and she meets the best man, and his name is Josh. She friend zones him because she's in a long-term relationship and they become friends. A lot of people don't really like this book because they feel like she was kind of like emotionally cheating on her significant other, but I didn't really get that vibe. But I thought this was a really good friends to lovers. I thought this was really entertaining and feel like both of the characters found love that they deserved from one another, and also banter is so good. These 3 books, I would say like the banter and chemistry between the 2 characters is so good. I was so entertained, just kicking my feet, giggling, could not stop turning the page. So if you're looking for something like that, read these books. The next trope I'm gonna recommend books for is workplace romance. Personally, this is one of my favorites if it's done well, because I love a good forced proximity, if you know what I mean. I'm going to include this even though I don't really know if it's necessarily workplace, but basically both of the people in this book are figure skaters and they're forced to become a pair, compete as a team, and it is so good. It's a slow burn, forced proximity. I feel like it's kind of Grumpy Sunshine because, yep, Mariana Zapata, she always does it well. This is one of the first books I ever read by her and I loved it so much. Highly recommend. From Lukov with love. Next book we have is The Love Hypothesis by none other than Allie Hazelwood. I would say this is my favorite book by her. This is a STEM romance, and basically this is about Olive, and she's a PhD student and she's working in this lab where also this guy Adam works there. He's a professor, and she basically starts working with him for this new project, even though they actually kind of despise each other. All the interactions they've had have not been good, and he's kind of an asshole, just like a little bit, you know, just like he keeps it fun and interesting. I personally like love, this is like a little bit of a Grumpy Sunshine as well, but I wanted to put it in workplace romance because they do have to work together on this. They have to work on an experiment together. This is one of my, I think this is my favorite Allie Hazelwood book, so if you've been meaning to read something by her, definitely pick this one up. Last book recommendation I have for this trope is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. And this is the first book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, and I actually read them out of order when I first read them. Fun fact, which like it doesn't matter that much to be honest. So if you don't really want to commit to the series, it's only 3 books. 3rd book personally isn't worth it in my opinion. This is the first one in the series and follows a group of 3 brothers, and they're billionaires. Their family owns think of like Six Flags Great America. They own like a franchise like that, and Rowan is basically a boss for the production company, I believe. He decides to hire this girl named Zara to kind of work in the creative department for the park, and this is also kind of a Grumpy Sunshine. Sorry guys, I just love that trope, but this is a workplace romance. They start working together, forced proximity, He's kind of her boss. Anyways, he offers her dream job, even though she only has like freelance experience, and he's kind of off limits because she's working with him. She feels that way, and really good workplace romance. Personally, the second book in the series is my favorite, but that one is also really good. Our next trope is another one of my favorites, and that is a good slow burn. And when I mean slow burn, at least for like two of these, like this much of the book, tension is building, they're not together, and then like this much of the book, they're finally together. So sorry, but I couldn't not recommend her for this category. So Luna and Lie. This is I don't think I've talked a lot about I don't think I've recommended this book a lot on my channel. This is another Mariana Zapata book, but this is about a girl named Luna, and she's had this job at a mechanic shop for many years, and she's one of the only females that work in the shop, and her boss is kind of an asshole. This is also kind of a workplace romance, but when I think of this book, I think of slow burn. So she forms a relationship with her boss. He finds a soft spot for her. They've worked together for a while, but they never have gotten to know each other. This is such a good slow burn. I feel like this book is very character driven. Not a lot of plot is happening, if that makes sense. But I feel like slow burn, you'll love this. Next book is going to be All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. This is about a girl named Aurora who goes back to her hometown to kind of try to get some background on her mother who passed away a long time ago, and she hasn't been back since. She finds a place to stay, and it's basically this garage being rented out, and turns out the son of the guy in this book, he's like a teenager, he listed the place for rent without the dad knowing, so there's a big like, they get off on the wrong foot. He decides to let her stay because he kind of feels bad for her. And yeah, slow burn, so good. The characters had a lot of like depth and trauma to them, I feel like, in this book, so I felt really connected to them, and the slow burn was done so well. And then I decided to include this for slow burn. I feel like this is a slow burn, right? I feel like it kind of is. And it's also not enemies to lovers, but they don't like each other when they first meet, and then they run into each other in the small town. This is Book Lovers by Emily Henry, obviously. But yeah, this is kind of a slow burn. They were gonna work together, but they don't. End up breaking together, and then they run into each other. This is a slow burn because basically the two characters in the book have met many times before because they're both in book publishing. Nora's trying to get away with her sister, trying to get away from the city, and the reason he's there is because his family like owns this bookshop in this small town, and he's trying to help out. They slowly form a relationship, and it's really good. I would say this is my third favorite Mariana Zapata. This is my third favorite Emily Henry book. It's really good. I remember really liking it when I read it, and I feel like there's a little bit more depth to this. A lot of this book also has to do with Nora and her relationship with her sister and trying to figure out what she wants to do with the rest of her life, and yeah, obviously the romance is really good as well. So next trope is fake dating / marriage of convenience. The first book I'm going to start off with is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaire series I was just talking about. This is about Declan. He's the CEO of the family's media empire, and Iris is his assistant, and basically his grandfather's dying wish in order to give the inheritance is for Declan to be married, and he wants to make that happen. So Iris, his assistant, is basically given the job to find him someone suitable to marry, and they end up finding someone, but she flakes. So Iris decides to take one for the team and marry Declan, because how bad could it be? She works with him, she sees him every day because she's his assistant, so she decides to do it. This is my favorite book from this series. Also kind of grumpy sunshine, workplace romance, but yeah, when I think of that book, I think of Marriage of Convenience. The next book I'm going to recommend is In a Jam by Kate Canterbury. This is about a girl named Shay, and her grandmother leaves her a tulip farm after she passes away. She goes back to the small town in Rhode Island, and she runs into this guy named Noah who she knew in high school, but she hasn't seen him in so many years. And why did they get married? I can't remember. Why? Oh, basically to save the home. In order to keep the farm and everything, she has to find someone to marry, She was actually engaged. Her wedding got called off, and she only has 1 year to find someone to marry in order to keep the home and the farm. So she decides to do that with Noah, who lives next door. And she kind of knows him because they went to high school together, so how bad could it be? I remember really liking this book, and it's kind of a slow burn as well. And it's cute because it's in a small town. The last book I'm going to recommend for fake dating / marriage of convenience is The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. I talked about this a lot in 2023. This book is so beautiful. Oh my god, it made me cry. Heart-wrenching. So good, so romantic. And you would think, how is it romantic if it's marriage of convenience? Well, you just have to read it. It's basically about this guy named Beckett, and he's best friends with Ella, who is the female character in this book. He's best friends with Ella's brother, and they're both in the military. Ella's brother is like, you should get a pen pal. My sister needs someone to talk to. You guys should write to each other. So Beckett and Ella start writing to each other, and something tragic happens to Ella's brother while he's in the military, and his wish is that Beckett will take care of Ella and her 2 kids if anything ever happens to him. So Beckett decides to leave the military and go and do that, but he doesn't tell Ella who he is and that he's been the person she's been writing to for this past year. One of Ella's kids has cancer, I think, and she needs health insurance. So Beckett offers his health insurance and basically says, just marry me so I can help your son, because that's what the brother wanted Beckett to do. So marriage of convenience, and this book is so good. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this book, but I would say this is my favorite Mariana Zapata book. Okay, we're on the last trope, and that is second chance. Usually don't love this trope because I feel like it's usually not done well. I feel like when people do this trope, they don't give me enough background on how it's a second chance and the relationship before, but I feel like these books do it really well. First book I'm recommending is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is about a girl named Eva. She's an author. There is this man named Shane who also is an author, and they run into each other at a literary event. They haven't seen each other in a long time because they went to high school together, and they had 7 days they spent with each other back in the day when they were in high school, and they basically formed an instant connection. They related on a lot of trauma each other had, and they formed a really beautiful connection, but then they never saw each other again until they run into each other at this literary event in present time many years later. So this is a second chance, and you get a lot of flashbacks to when they first met in high school, and then obviously you get the present time. This is done so well. I love this book a lot. Next book I'm going to talk about is After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is about a married couple. They've been together in total, not just marriage, but like before marriage as well. I think they were together for like 11 years. They fell out of love with each other, and all the things they loved about each other they actually hate, and they decide they're gonna get divorced. But then they're like, wait a minute, we should try and make this work. Let's try to date each other. Let's try to make this work. So it's a second chance, and this book like really hurt my heart. It was so good. It was so beautiful. Really well done second chance. And I also feel like this is kind of different for most second chance books I've seen, because a lot of second chance, they've like had a relationship a long time ago, they don't see each other for a good chunk of time, and then like it's second chance. But this, they've been together for like 11 years, they're married, and they suddenly are like, maybe we should get divorced, and then they're like, no, maybe we should make it work. So it's kind of different, and I really love it. I love anything Taylor Jenkins Reid writes. So last book I'm going to recommend is Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I believe this is one of her first books, and this book was really talked about a couple years ago, but I still think about it still to this day, to be honest. This is about Grace and Matt. So 15 years ago, they met each other in college at NYU in the dorm rooms. They became really good friends, slowly formed a relationship, and then they like never see each other after school. They have a falling out, 15 years go by, and they run into each other again. I really love the way this was written. You get point of view from Matt and Grace, which I love, a dual point of view, and this one's done really well. And then also you get flashbacks from when they first met and when they fell in love, and then obviously the present time when they run back into each other. This book is really good, and it's one of the best second chance books I've ever read. So, and I'm done recommending books. I hope you guys found a new recommendation. I know some of those books are kind of highly talked about. I tried to pick some books that I feel like I haven't heard a lot of people talk about in a while, But yeah, if you like any of those tropes, read some of those books and let me know. Like I said, I highly recommend all those books. I remember really enjoying them when I read them. So anyways, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you so much for watching. I know Valentine's Day is past, but when I'm filming this, it is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe I can do another video like this, but maybe I can do more recommendation videos. I just don't really love these types of videos because I feel like a lot of people just like recommend the same books. So once I read a couple more books, maybe I'll come up with something else. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found a new book to read, and I will see you in my next video, which will be my February reading wrap up. Oh, I never say this, but if you liked this video, make sure to like it and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video.